One of the biggest financial decisions a lot of people make are actually not to decide which stocks to invest in or what house to buy. The biggest financial decision for a lot of people is what should they do with the extra money they have left after paying their bills and all other expenses each month. What should they do with their money if they suddenly get an inheritance or a big bonus at work? Now, for a lot of people, they're standing between two choices. Should they invest the money in the stock market and let compound investing do its thing? Or should they pay down their mortgage and work towards financial freedom, towards being debt-free? Now, the answer is not as obvious as it seems. A lot of experts are arguing that you should put your money into stocks because there's a high return each year and because the money keeps compounding. But a lot of other experts are advising to pay down the mortgage with this money. So what should you do? Now in this video, we're going to look at each side of the argument. We're going to look at why some professionals advise to put it into stocks and investing, while some other professionals advise mortgages. Which one should you do? Because your interest rate, your risk tolerance and other factors involved have a lot to say for which one you should go for. And we're also going to look at what the history says, which one gives the best results. So stay tuned for this incredibly important video. Now let's get into the pure mathematics of the decision. Now, paying down your mortgage is guaranteed. So you know that if your interest rates are, let's say, 5%, you know that for every dollar you invest, you're going to save that amount of money annually. So it's guaranteed. Whereas the stock market and investing, your returns are not guaranteed. But historically, stock markets can return on an average of 8%. Some years it can be as high as 20 or 30%, but some years it can be in the minus. So you never know what it is, but historically the returns in the stock market has been a lot higher. But again, past history is no guarantee of future history, and mortgages, you are guaranteed that you're going to pay down the same percent that your interest rate is. Now, if you from a purely mathematical perspective is going to sit down and calculate, okay, is investing earning me the most money or saving me the most money, or is paying down the mortgage doing that? You have to take into account the effect of compounding. So investing in the stock market, it compounds a lot. So let's say that you invest $10,000 and you earn 8%. Then after 1 year, those $10,000, you would have earned $800. And then the next year you're compounding. If it's again 8%, you're compounding. You're getting 8% return on $10,800. So after 10 years, those $10,000 would have grown to $21,000 if you grow 8% each year, or $100,000 after 30 years. But what a lot of people forget is that investing or paying down your mortgage also has a compounding effect, especially if you're paying down early, because a lot of banks have contracts that say that when you pay down your mortgage, you're always paying a lot more higher interest on the mortgage. So the interest payment come first and then you're paying down on the mortgage itself. So if you pay down on the mortgage, then you're also having a compounding effect, because the interest rate is calculated based on the total mortgage. So if you say, let's say if your mortgage is $500,000 and you have a 5% interest rate, but you get a huge inheritance and you pay down $200,000 on it, then your mortgage is $300,000 and those 5% are calculated based on those $300,000. So in the mortgage, so in the housing and real estate market, you also get a compounding effect if you pay down on the mortgage. So you have to not forget the compounding effect when it comes to real estate, because a lot of people do that. So depending on how high your interest rate is on your mortgage, you have to sit down, you have to calculate and say, would you earn more on investing in the stock market with, let's say, an 8% annual return, or by paying down your mortgage. Now, you must not forget that there's also a very huge psychological part of this, because it's very easy to just sit down and go into the mathematics and do the calculations, but these investment decisions has also a very huge psychological effect. So let's say that you use all your money to pay down on a mortgage. So you pay down the mortgage, you have no spare money in your account, and suddenly a crisis happens and you need a lot of money. If you have invested in stocks, you can sell those stocks and get the money back. But if you have paid down the mortgage, you cannot get those money back. There's nothing to sell for you to get that money back. So that uncertainty brings a huge psychological stress. And let's say that you have two different families. One has invested 100,000 in stocks, another has paid down their mortgage, used that 100,000 to pay down your mortgage. Which one do you think sleeps better at night? And the obvious answer is those that are invested in stocks. So the fact that you don't see those savings save up, that has a huge psychological effect, even though you do the calculations as mathematically paying down the mortgage makes more sense. But then again, another psychological aspect to take into account is that you don't know how the stock market will do each specific year. So yes, you can see the averages, you can see how it would do on average over time, but the past is no guarantee of the future. So let's say you invested a lot, everything into stocks in 2008, right before the financial crisis. That would have been a huge psychological toll when it fell 50%. And in that year, you would actually earn a lot more if you have paid down your mortgage with that money instead. So you have to take the psychological into account because it has genuine value and it will have a huge effect on you if you're uncomfortable with the decision you make, even though it may make more sense mathematically. So as you can probably understand, there are two factors that are really important when you're going to make this decision. One is the interest rate on your mortgage. So before interest rates were really cheap, they were 3 or 4%, then it would make a lot more sense to invest in stocks because the potential return on stocks could be a lot higher. But today in a lot of countries, the interest rate on the mortgage is really high, pushing 6 or 7%. And then the benefit of investing in stocks is not as big as you think. And you have to remember that paying down your mortgage is guaranteed. So the advice of a lot of investors is to pay down your mortgage when the interest rate on your mortgage is high, or invest in stocks if the interest rate on your mortgage is really low. So the specific advice can vary a lot from each year depending on the interest rate on the mortgage. And the second very important factor is, of course, the psychological. What kind of risk are you willing to take? Are you willing to take the psychological risk of having a really low balance on your savings and investments? And are you willing to take the psychological risk of your investment portfolio losing 50% of its value? And a lot of humans are really bad at calculating the psychological risk. So this is really something you have to take into account. Now, to give a conclusion, something really important that you have to take into account is that you don't have to choose either or. It's very much possible to diversify by using some of your money to pay down your mortgage and some of your money to invest in stocks. And I personally think that this is the best option to choose the best of both worlds, and then you can adjust your diversification, meaning which one you want to invest more heavily on depending on your risk tolerance and the specific conditions in your specific situation. So just overall, if your mortgage is low, you have a stable income source, and you're willing to take the risk, then the stocks are of course more attractive. But if you very much appreciate being debt-free, having more the freedom that comes with low debt, and you're okay with, and what's more important for you is Not necessary to have the highest net worth, but to be in a financial position that you're comfortable with, then mortgages could be a good way to go. But you should always make sure to save, have some savings left, because again, mortgages that you pay down, you can't get that money back again. Now, thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and leave a comment, let us know what you think. Thank you.